Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the third episode of Cast to the Future. We got a wonderful panel today. I'm Curtis, your host, also the main declaration judge. Over here, we got Kevin, one of our debaters today. We also got Travis, who is one of our judges. We got Zach, who's very new to Cast of the Future. He's one of our debaters. And we got Erik returning once again. We got Jessica, one of our judges, and our last judge, Logan. The episode today will focus on the 1982 science fiction family classic E.T. the Extraterrestrial, directed by Steven Spielberg. Of course, when this movie came out, it was a phenomenon. It was the highest grossing movie of all time when it was released. It became an instant pop culture classic. Even people who have not seen the movie you know, can word out the famous lines from the film, whether it's E.T. phone home, where originally the line is E.T. home phone. That's a little bit of a Mandela effect there, but they do say E.T. phone home for throughout the film after that. So people are kind of wrong, yet they're not wrong at the same time. So um, we're going to start this panel off by just briefly, doing a little 30 seconds, not 30 minutes, 30 seconds or to 1 minute thoughts on the movie overall. I will go first. I actually saw this movie again recently, a couple nights ago to prepare for this episode. And I didn't watch the movie. I watched the movie like maybe several years before, a couple nights ago. And the first time I watched it, I think my opinion was like, I can see, I like it. I liked it fine. I can see why this is a classic to most people. I can see why this movie's um, this movie is so important for many people. But I think I watched it too late. I think I watched it a little bit too old. I think if I grew up with this movie, like when I was a kid, if I watched it like when I was like 6, 7 years old, I think this movie would be I would be more connected to it. Then I saw it a couple nights ago, and it does have kind of a slow start. It's not the usual fast-paced Spielberg movie like Raiders or Jaws where it grabs you instantly. It does move kind of slow, but it has sort of an atmosphere to it, sort of innocent this innocence to it. I mean, the majority of the movie is focused on kids, and the majority of the adults in the movie are only seen from the waist down, um, except for the mom, who is one of the main characters of the film. And throughout throughout the movie, I watched it a couple nights ago. I started to see why this movie is so good, especially it's so good to many people's eyes. And especially during the third act, I almost got emotional because you just feel for this relationship between Elliot and ET. You can tell Elliot is a kid who doesn't have a lot of friends, doesn't have anyone to connect to. I mean, his older brother kind of bullies him a lot. He's his family struggling through a separation, and when he finds this creature, he connects to it. They connect literally and figuratively. Like when each is feeling an emotion, Elliot is feeling that same emotion. It's brilliantly done, and when they have to say goodbye to each other, it's actually it almost made me kind of tear up a little because it was like kind of saying goodbye to a friend who you don't know if you're gonna see or you're not gonna see again. And I think Spielberg made a movie that's perfect for kids to watch when growing up, and I can see really now why it's considered a classic. So that's my thoughts, and they kind of rambled a bit there. Um, Erik, would you like to give your quick thoughts on ET?
Yeah, I love you said you tear up when you watch DT. I don't care how many times I've seen it. Honestly, I have no idea how many times I've seen it. I cry every time I watch that movie. I've grown up with that movie. I think I saw it the first time when I was 5. So I was like around like Gertie's age when I saw it. And I've seen it ever since. So that movie literally was my childhood. And also the majestic music by John Williams. You always hear themes in his films that are you always remember, but this film, it was a full score from beginning to end. And that music is absolutely incredible because it just resonates with the film. It really creates the perfect atmosphere, which is what he's done with Spielberg's whole career. But the cast is absolutely perfect. And Henry Thomas just gives such an amazing performance because you really feel for him and the alien. And it just makes you think about you just want this to happen to you. You hope you find an alien in your backyard one day and that this happens. So it's like a fantasy all kids have. And Spielberg really does an amazing job at executing that. So in my opinion, it's my favorite Spielberg film ever. There, I said it.
All right, Jessica, would you like to give your quick thoughts?
I mean, you guys pretty much covered like what I love about the movie. Growing up, like I was a kid that grew up like in the 90s and the early 2000s, so we didn't really have like the technology that we do today that kind of keeps kids inside when they play. So like we would have to go out and play with the neighbors, play with our school friends. Like you would go out and you would use your imagination and go on these adventures in your backyard. So, you know, Steven Spielberg really kind of brought that to life. And like Erik said, like you did wish it would happen to you. Like anytime you heard something in your backyard, like, this is it. This is when it's going to happen. Like, and with me, like, I grew up with Steven Spielberg. Really, like the two big movies we watched growing up were E.T. and Jurassic Park. So that's kind of like what introduced me to Steven Spielberg and really kind of made me interested in his movies. I was too scared to watch Jaws when I was a kid, but I grew out of that. But yeah, this one, it was nice because it feels like a very kid-friendly movie. It's told from the kid's perspective. You felt very seen when you were watching it because you felt like you could relate a lot better to the characters as opposed to watching adults trying to figure out a problem. So I thought it was a really good introduction into kids being seen on film and feeling like their experiences were being shown.
Kevin, why don't you give your quick thoughts?
Yeah, well, I'll echo a lot of the stuff you guys have already been saying in that this movie's very iconic. I would say it's top 3 for me for Spielberg movies, right behind Raiders and Jurassic Park. I'll say that at the start of my life, I was always scared to watch E.T. because as a kid, I would see like commercials and trailers and be like, this alien creeps me out. Like I was scared of the design for some reason freaked me out. But obviously at like 6 or 7 probably, I got over it, watched it, loved it. I watched it a ton. I recently watched it again for this video we were about to do and got a little bored, but I think the second half holds up just as well. Maybe not so much the first half, but we can work on that with this recasting here. And I gotta say, like, of all the things about this movie, I think the shots, the cinematography in this movie is phenomenal. I don't think it gets talked about enough. You know, some movies in like the pantheon of film history are lucky to have like one iconic shot. But I think this movie has like 3 to 5, like both shots of him and E.T. flying across the moon, across the sun with the other kids, him putting his finger up to the window and saying E.T. phone home. All these incredible moments, I think, are going to live on in cinema history. So great movie.
How about you, Logan?
Honestly, for me, when it comes to E.T., my childhood memories of it are a bit skewed because I didn't grow up being allowed to watch it. Mostly because my sister was terrified of this film growing up. Mostly Elliot finding E.T. in the garden to her was akin to the chest burster in Alien. It freaked her out to absolutely no end, and thusly E.T. was not allowed in my household growing up. But when I got around to watching it as I got older, I think what E.T. does really well is there's a certain attitude that directors kind of continue on throughout their career, and Spielberg has kind of held this I make movies for everybody attitude. And I feel like you could tell he made good movies with Raiders and Jaws, but E.T. was the first time where the mass audience got to see that he could take those really great storytelling details and make it in a movie that could appeal to anybody regardless of age, wouldn't be too scary for most audiences, not my sister, but I think this really just kind of cemented that he was a talent to be reckoned with. And I think that that's why it holds up to this day, because the performances are still there. The kids feel like genuine kids. They don't feel like a quick sketch of what a kid is like in some movies. characters feel real. And I think Erik said it really well, but like by the time the credits roll, you're like, well, I want to find an alien in the backyard. This sounds cool. Like, and you want to be there with the characters. I think part of what makes it such a fun movie.
All right, Travis, give your quick thoughts.
All right, so Steven Spielberg is why I love movies. That's my idol. He's the greatest. I find him as the greatest director, obviously, of all time. My physical connection with E.T., I'm from a small town, so I used to ride a bike a lot in my town, and my favorite scene in that whole film is the bike chase. When you have young kids literally fleeing police officers and then flying away. That for me is just clicks instantly for me. And I was fortunate enough when I saw it around 8 or 9. It's probably my second favorite Spielberg films, being my first one being Jaws, which freaked me out too when I was younger. But Steven Spielberg just knows how to connect with an audience. And we mentioned that famous scene where Elliot's flying over the moon, and Steven Spielberg uses that for his Emblem Entertainment here in California. So I think it's just an amazing movie. And I was fortunate enough, since I moved to California, to visit one of the locations where they shot. It's the scene where E.T. is coming out of the ambulance way up in the California area. So that's really cool. I think this film is it's a classic. As far as a slow start, I do agree. It does start slow, but it does have a good cadence to it. It has good pacing throughout. But I'm excited to see how everyone recasts a film like this. This, to me, is a Mount Everest. So I would like to see how everyone climbs up this today. It's not going to be easy, but this is going to be cool. That's my thoughts.
Finally, Zach.
Oh, wow. How can I follow so many different statements that all kind of like gravitate towards the same idea, where of course this movie is iconic. It's been around since 1982. My mother saw this at a very young age on a VHS tape, and it's one of her favorite movies, so I grew up watching it a lot. And then we saw it whenever re-released in theaters in 2002 with updated special effects. I didn't know any better then, but that's when I really fell in love with the movie, and I got a chance to rewatch the original more and more times. It's an insanely quotable movie. One of my favorite insults ever in a movie is when Elliot calls his brother penis breath. I think that needs to be used more often, you know? And what else? It's a very simple story at its core, in the sense of it's like a boy and his dog, which is something that Spielberg is kind of mirrored in many other films that he would go on to make. He even alludes to in Indiana Jones as well, about his original name. And all the performances in this movie are good, but the standout, of course, is Henry Thomas. He brings out so much emotion, and he shows a real connection to E.T. And we believe that E.T., whenever we see it, we don't see it as like a special effect. We see it as an actual alien. And it just makes us connect to it so much more, and the journey that they go on. I would say its slow start is one of its strengths, because it doesn't throw us right into it. It lets us kind of marinate in this 80s suburbia, specifically with this family that's dealing with turmoil. And as an adult, you pick up much more on that more, especially whenever the government is listening with Michael and Elliot, and they're kind of remembering their time with their dad. It's a very small moment, but when you rewatch it, it's like, ooh, they're still picking up the pieces of this kind of broken family. But it's forgotten at the end of the movie through the bike chase and all the whimsical moments of it. And all in all, it's one of my favorite Spielberg movies. Terrific all around.
Yeah, and I was wondering, like, if they ever, like, God forbid, remake this movie, or if like what we're doing today, if they never made this movie at all, but it was being made in 2020, would the ET effects be mostly CGI or still practical effects, still like a puppet? I hope it would still be a puppet, because like what Zach said, that would add to the charm of the movie, that ET was actually there on set. It felt like he was another actor on set working with these kids, which is why it makes the connection because ET and the chemistry more powerful. I mean, they might do, if this movie thing, they might probably use CGI, but only for some minor stuff. But for the most part, like, ET actually has to be there. That's how it actually works. So yeah, like, of course, it's a tough task passing the version of ET, the extraterrestrial. The only thing we won't be doing, what we did in the past episodes, is recasting the director. I feel like Steven Spielberg was the guy who brought the story to the table. I think this was. Can you guys hear me?
You've been kind of sounding like a robot this whole time, but now you're good.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, hopefully the video comes out good. Yeah, Steven Spielberg was the one who brought this story to the table, and I think without him, this would have been made. It has all his fingerprints all over it. So for this episode, we're going to keep the original director, which is Steven Spielberg. Now, if all of my debaters and judges are ready, let's go ahead and cast the future. All right. First character up in this first round is Gertie. Gertie, of course, was originally played by Drew Barrymore in the film. She's a 5-year-old girl who's the daughter of Mary and the younger sister of Elliot and Michael, who has a mischievous and sarcastic personality. So let's get this going. Let's cast Gertie. And we are going to start off with Erik. Erik, who's your choice for Gertie?
Hope I say her name right. Reagan Rebord from Young Sheldon plays Missy on the show. I gotta admit, this was so tough to do. I've been trying to find actresses that are really young, like around 5 to 7 years old, and I'm like, I can't think of anybody. And then I have someone, and I realized the movie came out like 3 or 4 years ago. I'm like, oh no. So I chose Reagan, I guess, because she's absolutely amazing in Young Sheldon. And I think that since thank God we're keeping him, he is very good at working with children and bringing a different performance out of them. And I guess working with everyone she's worked with, Young Sheldon, she's probably picked up a lot, and working with an ensemble and working, like, honestly, she's in a family show working with a bigger family, which I think is nice. And she might be a little old for the role, I can admit that. But I also think she can bring like an innocence to Gertie that would be fun for the movie. And also, I'm not sure if she screamed like Drew Barrymore did in the original, even if I think it'd just be a different take on the character. And honestly, I really want to hear what Kevin and Zach have to say, because this was very tough to do, I have to admit. My other choices I'm a little more confident in than this one, I have to admit. So I'm good.
Is it my turn?
Yeah.
Sorry. So getting into my choices, I just want to preface that my general idea, and you'll probably get that through the very different choices for the 4 characters I did, would be a potential like adaptation of the story where Mary is a single mom who adopted 3 different foster children, and these foster children are bonding through their misadventures with this alien that they find in their backyard. So it's obviously a little bit different, a little bit of a new take on the story. But since we're going into this assuming that E.T. back in 1982 didn't happen, I figured that would be an interesting new way to go. So along those lines, I'm going with Blue Ivy Carter, the daughter of Jay-Z and Beyonce. Now, I know what you're all thinking. It's true. She's never acted in anything. She's never been an actress before. But if you go onto Drew Barrymore's filmography, she had only been in one movie before E.T. called Altered States, which if any of you have ever seen or heard of it, you can, okay. So there's some people who've heard of it. I hadn't before. But basically, Drew Barrymore was cast in E.T. in my mind because she's of the Barrymore family, and she's like a very famous child that's coming up within roots of people who have already established themselves in the industry. So I think that having Blue Ivy Carter cast as Gertie would be a very cool and a very interesting choice because, you know, me, even without this happening, I assume that in like less than 5 years, we'll see Blue Ivy Carter acting in something, whether it's a TV show or a movie, or she'll put out like a single as like a child singer. She's gonna enter the limelight in some capacity. Why not give her first big break in E.T. as Gertie? I think it's a very one-to-one relationship between her in 2020 and Drew Barrymore in the beginning of the 1980s. So that's my pick.
All right, Zach, who's your choice for Gertie?
My choice for the character of Gertie, previously played by Drew Barrymore, is Adeline Spoon of Watchmen fame. She plays the youngest girl in Watchmen, Emma. And based on interviews with her, this is her first not only huge production, but it's her first production in general. And when you look at interviews with her, she's around the age of 7 years old, but she has just this very innocent presence about her, and she's very impressionably just cute. It's a very, very adorable young actress, and I think that as the character Gertie, you are required to do things like also be a vehicle for very cute lines, like saying alligators in the sewers. And are you sure he's not a pig? He sure eats like one. And as long as you have an actress like Adeline Spoon, who has proven herself to be very adorable in Watchmen, you can have, and that's already just a big league show that she's definitely cannot watch a lot of her performance in unless you're just watching her scenes. Why not give her this movie where she is one of the best aspects about it and really showcase her acting chops? Because she's already got Watchmen, why not add a Steven Spielberg classic to her roster?
All right, you three, debate it out.
All right. So I just want to start by saying that my main argument to differentiate myself between Zach's choice and Eric's choice is when you go back now and you watch E.T., it's not the first thing that comes in your head to think, oh, Drew Barrymore, what a great actress. That was a phenomenal role. No, she's a little kid. Like, I'm sorry, but I think Steven Spielberg could make any little kid work that magic into the role. I don't think it has to be a specific person with acting chops necessarily. So I don't think that it has to be someone like the girl from Young Sheldon and the girl from Watchmen. I'm sorry, I forgot both of their names already. But I think that the biggest thing is the age factor. And Erik, how old was the girl that you chose, the girl from Young Sheldon?
Fortunately, I was like, I hope she's like 5, but she turns out to be, she's 12.
See, I think that's a bit too old
Yeah.
for the role. And I think that the biggest thing for me, like, I'll echo what you said at the start. The child actors was like the biggest hurdle I faced. I was like, I don't know. I don't have a database of all child actors in my head. That'd be weird. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know these things. So I had to look up, and at the end of the day, I was like, so she was like, what, like 5, 6, 7?
Yeah.
Blue Ivy Carter is 8 years old, and she looks very young, and she's never been in a role before. I think having Blue Ivy Carter's name in the casting list, people are going to look at that and be like, oh, she's in movies now. That'd be cool. I just think it's an interesting choice. Makes the cast diverse. I tried to make, it's only 4 roles that we're picking, but I tried to make it as diverse, obviously, with the idea that I had coming into this. And yeah, I don't really think that having acting chops or any previous acting roles is really necessary.
Well, in this case, the 1982 movie didn't happen. So for 2020, I was thinking, like, for me, I also chose Reagan because she's been playing the same character for 6 years. And I would think I would want to do something completely different. And also, you get the opportunity to work with Steven Spielberg. I'd probably, like Adeline Spoon, probably the same thing. It's like you've been playing the same character for a little while, even though it was only 9 episodes. It's still a long time to play the same person. This time, it's only a 2-hour movie. But I feel like for Reagan and working with, like, people that are big in this business, working with Chuck Lorre, working with director Jon Favreau for the pilot, and working with some of those big names, even the rising star, who I believe is your Elliot, Kevin, Ian, and probably learn a lot from each other. So then you're like, wait, I get to work with Spielberg? I get to read the words of Melissa Matheson? I'm like, that's an amazing opportunity and something new. So I feel like, and then she already has those chops, and then add to it. So, and then you can add layers to it. And with Spielberg, he's not afraid to, like, show comedic moments and make it like an overall experience. With Blue Ivy Carter, maybe can it be a great performance, or all she has to do is look adorable? But I feel like Gertie, there can be even more to it, especially in those scenes at the very end in the hospital where she has to cry. Can Blue pull that off?
Well, who's to say she can't? We don't know. And I think Steven Spielberg can get that out of any child, honestly. Like, I think he's a great director. And I think Blue Ivy Carter is being raised in a family of a lot of talent. So I think that
Music-wise.
Yeah, music-wise,
hey,
because
Beyonce was
Music-wise.
great. Beyonce was great in the Pink Panther, and you all know, you all know it.
I'll give her Austin Powers, okay?
Very
years ago.
true.
I'll give her Austin Powers.
I gotta
but-
say though, Zach, I can't really comment on your is it Adeline Spoon?
Adeline Spoon.
I never saw Watchmen, the show, so I gotta get on that. But I just wanted to ask, what's like the extent of her role? Not like spoiling it, but like how big of a role is she on the show? I don't know.
It's tough to argue about this because I've only seen a handful of clips of Watchmen.
Oh, you've only seen the clips.
Yes, yes. I
Love
know
it.
the context of the show, so I can't like argue my case. But I will say the scenes that she is in, she is, you know, pulling her best chops. I watched interviews with Adeline Spoon. This is all a suggestion of my roommates who were like, they heard me doing this and they were like, oh, well, the little girl in Watchmen is good. So I went to clips of Adeline Spoon and her interviews with press junket people about Watchmen. And she showcased how she acts. And she says whenever she wants to cry, she thinks about something sad. And I'm like, for a 7-year-old, that's not easy to do. And for Blue Ivy Carter pulling that off, I can't imagine her pulling it off
I
as
don't know.
an experienced actor. As on an
Isn't true? Yeah, she was in a family of actors, right?
But Watchmen is her first role, like you said. So she knew to do that from the jump. How do we know Blue Ivy Carter can't? And I think it'll just give the production a certain level of clout to be like, oh my God, Blue Ivy's in this? Oh my gosh, let's go see it. And then obviously to address what you were saying earlier, Erik, about my pick of Ian Armitage as Elliot, if any of you judges are considering picking Ian Armitage, then you can't pick Eric's pick because then they'll be like, we're just raiding from the Young Sheldon cast. They'll just be like, this is ridiculous.
You're getting my
So who do you
Elliot.
vote then? Yeah, Blue Ivy Carter, who you said was 8 years old.
Yeah.
And then we got Erik bringing up the sister from Young Sheldon, who you said was 12. We got Adeline Spoon over here, 7-year-old.
It's also not just about age. It's not just about
It's not just about age.
Yeah, you know what? A casting director is going to look at this, and it's like audiences know, you know? Audiences know.
age is a big factor, but I also
It is a
think
big
that
factor.
7, 8, you know, take it or leave it. That's why my pick of Blue Ivy Carter and Adeline Spoon, same amount of weight to it. 13 or 12, whatever you said, 13 or 12 versus 7 or 8. That's a big gap. That's 5 years. Come on.
Are we really gonna? Yeah.
It's like between me and Zach's pick, it's like splitting hairs, but between our picks and Eric's pick, it's like freaking mountains in between. Come on now.
With picking Adeline Spoon or Blue Ivy
I
Carter,
just don't mind as acting
what
chops.
are you going to?
Hey, how do you know she doesn't?
How do you know people aren't just gonna cast her because she is a daughter of Beyonce and Jay-Z?
Well, that'll get her foot in the door, but then she'll have to act
Get her
well.
foot in the door. Her parents are Jay-Z and Beyonce.
That's a perfect foot in the door.
Foot in the door for her would be like casting her in an A24.
They might as well be producing this movie.
Listen, all I know is that you guys can't deny it. Blue Ivy Carter will take over the world one day. She'll be in stuff. And if it's this, hey, more power to me. I made a good choice. But I honestly think all three of our choices are pretty good. So I can't. I'm just nitpicking here, obviously.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Okay, well, this was a good debate. Just a good round overall. I like all your arguments. Very interesting choices. So with Erik for Reagan, like they said, she has experience working in ensemble, especially working on stuff like Young Sheldon, and she knows how to work with a family environments. Even though she may be a bit old for the role. She's 12 years old. I think you still brought interesting arguments to that, and she could do a different take on Gertie. I think that would be a rather interesting choice. And with Blue Ivy Carter, yeah, she hasn't been in a lot of stuff, but you know, again, Kevin, I like what you brought to the table. That this could be a big break for her. It could launch her career wherever she wants to go, whether that's music or acting in movies or TV shows, and following the footsteps of her dynasty of being the daughter of both Beyonce and Jay-Z. She could be that she could start being the third one in that trinity to give a name for herself. And I really like Zach's Adeline Spoon decision, even though I never seen Watchmen before. And I like, Zach, that you admitted that you never really seen the full clips of her in context of the show, but you watched some clips that involve her and some of her interviews. I like that you use that to your advantage, because that could help kind of know what the personality of this actor is and what they could bring to the top of this character. So I think I'm going to go with Zach's decision for Adeline Spoon. I think with her experience of being in this huge landmark of a show that is Watchmen, I think that could really help her being cast in a current Steven Spielberg movie, which would be this 2020 version of E.T. Because with Reagan, as good arguments you brought, Erik, I just don't think a 12-year-old can bring that same emotion, that same charm that a 7-year-old Drew Barrymore did when she was in E.T. I think what's helped the charm, what helped people like Gertie, was because how young she was. And this was a girl in the movie who was still watching Sesame Street. I can't see 12-year-olds who still watching Sesame Street. And with Blue Ivy Carter, even though yes, it would be a great launch to her career. Again, Drew Barrymore was at least in one thing, like in one movie, even if it wasn't a big movie. She was at least in one movie before she jumped into a Spielberg production, before she went into the big leagues. So with Adeline Spoon, I think what drew me more to that decision was her career experience being in Watchmen, being in a real high profile TV show. So my choice is going for Adeline Spoon. Jessica, what do you think?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, first off, I'm very offended that none of you said that I should play a 5-year-old Gertie. I definitely could do it, and I look like Drew Barrymore, but we'll move past that. This was hard, just because the character is so young. And like Curtis brought up a really good point. We have to remember, like, the actress didn't have to be 5 years old. Drew Barrymore was 7 when she portrayed the 5-year-old. But that being said, we are now in 2020. We think about these things with casting, but now we seem to put more weight on experience, especially with a big production like this. Kevin, I really like the idea of diversifying it a little bit, and I really like the idea of like having like a diverse family with foster children. We can bring in like a mixed amount of like different races, maybe different like cultural backgrounds and things like that. Unfortunately, I just would not feel confident going with Blue Ivy Carter simply because she doesn't have that experience to back it up. And like Zach and Erik brought up a good point of like she comes from a very talented family, but musically talented. If we were doing like a musical, let's say that we're redoing like Annie or Les Mis or something like that, I would feel more confident letting her have that first shot because I would feel more confident in her musical abilities, and we would be able to kind of put more weight on that as opposed to acting. Between Adeline and Reagan, it was really hard because like my heart says Reagan, because like I have seen her work. She's a great actress. She's very sassy. She reminds you kind of like that annoying little sister that you have to bring along. Unfortunately, look-wise for me with Reagan, she does look a little too old. I would feel like if we would have Reagan, the boys would have to be like teenage. Because otherwise I feel like they would look around the same age, even though I think that she could give a great performance for it. So my pick is going to go with Zach's Adeline Spoons as well, especially since if we're looking at it, it's kind of like following the trajectory of Drew Barrymore, where she may have only done one thing beforehand, but she's kind of proven herself with that. She has a little bit more experience, and we could kind of put our faith in her to portray the role of Gertie in a big Spielberg production.
All right, Logan.
Yeah, these are all really good choices across the board. To start off, Kevin, I do like the idea of Blue Ivy Carter, but your arguments were more focused on, we should just give her a shot because of her family. And while that might be a potential rationale for why Drew was hired in the first place, I think it's also she was the right choice for the job. And I just didn't get enough in your argument to say this is why Blue Ivy Carter is the right choice for the job. Kind of like what Jess was saying with, like, she might have talent, but she's from a musical family, and we haven't seen anything in the acting front. Erik, same. I've not seen Young Sheldon, so I will admit I'm a little bit as ill-informed on that. But I like hearing your argument, like the rationale for Reagan, for Gertie, I think fits. Seeing the kind of what you say she brings to Young Sheldon, I can see kind of working in there. But honestly, I think I have to go with Zach's choice with Adeline Spoon, because not only, like, I've seen Watchmen, so I have actually seen more of the context of those clips, but really, honestly, the part that sold me with your argument, because it wasn't really selling me until you brought up the press junket. And I think Curtis hit the nail on the head with that. Sometimes seeing what an actor can do on screen, and then seeing them behind the scenes as well, you get this greater sense of, just how much performing is going into a role. And seeing her in junkets, I can see some of the same sass that I think Drew would have brought to Gertie. So yeah, I think I'd have to put my vote behind Zach's choice for Adeline Spoon.
All right, so it looks like this vote is pretty obvious. You got 3 votes for Adeline Spoon, so Adeline Spoon will be our 2020 version of Gertie. Before we get moving to our next round, Travis, would you like to voice your opinion on this?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to go, Adeline Spoon was going to be mine too, so you would have made that at least 4. I just want to say, Kevin, that was great. I like how diversifying, absolutely, that's fantastic. But there was no experience for her acting-wise. I know that would be like her big break, but I just couldn't see that. Erik, quick thing on yours. I loved what you said earlier. You said layers. That's fantastic. That's how an actor can kind of, their craft gets even better. But when it came to the age of 12, and Jessica made a great point earlier, in 2020, we would recognize stuff like that. So I kind of just can't, 12 is just too old for it. So when I go to you, Zach, I liked what you said there. I think, age-wise, she works, and she's been, what she's done in Watchmen, it's been a while since I've seen that. She could absolutely pull that off. So Adeline Spoon for me. Great job, guys.
All right, so down with 1 round. Let's move on to the next round. We're now going to cast Michael, who is the older brother of Elliot and Gertie. Sometimes he's his younger brother and sister on most occasions, but after meeting E.T., Michael becomes a little bit more compassionate and caring. He helped his siblings take care of E.T. during his brief stay on Earth, so we need a young actor who could bring that diversity of character traits there. So let's begin casting the oldest brother, Michael. Kevin, who is your choice for Michael?
All right. My choice to play Michael, the older brother, is Gaten Matarazzo. Not sure if I'm pronouncing either of his first or last names correctly, but he is one of the main 4 cast members of Stranger Things. Of course, that's what he's most known for. I think giving him the role of Michael would be able to help him kind of step away from the Stranger Things character that they've built up for him. Granted, the first role that we see Michael, he's playing Dungeons and Dragons. A bit, did I think of that when I was casting him? Of course. But at the end of the day, I think the choices of Michael and Gertie were the most difficult for me. I don't know if that's the same for Zach and Erik, but it was just because, like, people in these age ranges I'm not as familiar with. Elliot, for me, I had like one clear person in mind, and we'll get to him. But I think that Gaten Matarazzo could have that diverse emotional range of being like the annoying brother who picks on Elliot and picks on Gertie, to becoming the compassionate, like, older brother who's able to nurture them and help them get through this emotional time with E.T. And I think he'll be a very fun addition to the cast. Yeah, that's my choice.
Zach, who's your choice for Michael?
My choice for Michael is Ed Oxenbould, and he is most famous for roles such as Alexander in Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. He was also the brother in the M. Night Shyamalan film The Visit. Those films came out about 5 to 6 years ago, and he was a kid during that time, and now he's kind of grown, stepping away from more bigger films. Recently, he was in a film directed by Paul Dano, where he's a child in the middle of with a family and affair with Carey Mulligan and Jake Gyllenhaal, and he plays a son who kind of is sandwiched in between the situation. He's also an Australian actor, so he's dealing with a lot more series at the moment, but he's kind of growing into a more mature actor, and he's about 20 years old, so that's like barely in the range of he's about to stop being believable as a teen. So right before he gets out of that window, I think that he has the experience to back it up, playing this kind of snarky older brother that makes a turn through growth in this experience. I think he would be an excellent choice because based on my other choices for the family, they also all look very similar with who I decided to cast as the mom. And they all have a very similar look in terms of brownish, blondish hair. And it just works as a family unit all together. And if you looked at their past, or Ed's past experience, he works in situations when he's supposed to be afraid and when he's supposed to be keeping secrets from other characters in their respective movies.
All right, Erik, who is your choice for Michael?
My choice is David Mazouz. I hope I said his last name right. He was Bruce Wayne on Gotham. He was a little kid when that show first started, but as the show grew, so did he. He was a little kid, and I think now he's about 5'8", 5'9". He's grown, and I think he's about 18, 19 years old. But playing Bruce Wayne for a long time, that was a very dark character to play. And now that he's not in that show anymore, the show's over, and it was a perfect ending, by the way. Now this is the perfect escape for him, just like Reagan, why I chose her, because you're playing the same character for a very long time. Now it's time to do something different. And now the opportunity comes to work with Steven Spielberg and explore a completely different character than he's ever played. And even though he played the same character for a long time, he was one person in the very beginning, and then by the end, he is completely different. And I grew on him as an actor, and he just showed his range throughout a 5-year show. Now working with Spielberg, he can do that for him in 2 hours, in a 2-hour runtime. And Michael, and I love the choices you both have for Elliot, because either way, David Mazouz will tower over both of them. So he'll be that older brother no matter what. And he can be intimidating. I mean, playing Bruce Wayne for a long time, he's got that. But it would be time to also explore a different, like, I tell you the truth, I didn't know about the Dungeons and Dragons thing until very recently on ET. So it'd be a very different character for him, but Spielberg will help him work with those layers and help him work with something that's not as dark, but a little more fun. So David can have a lot more fun, and it's like, wait, this is a different career than I expected.
All right, great, debate it out.
Great choices, you guys. I think, honestly, I'm at a bit of a loss differentiating between all three, because I think all three of them could work. But I'll just start first by saying, Erik, your choice of David, last name, go ahead and try, but I don't know.
Just say Adam, it's okay.
I don't know him, and I never watched Gotham, and I never seen anything he's in, so I really can't say what range he has. I don't know if he fits. I don't know if he can fit. He has acting chops because he's been in several projects, so I'm sure that he fits. But I'll just say real quick to defend my choice, I think Gaten Matarazzo has not a single film role, only television and theater. So I think it's long overdue. I think he's probably a lot of people's fan favorite character in Dustin, but I don't think Dustin ever gets enough time to shine as like a solo character. I mean, he's oftentimes kind of comedic relief to me, in my opinion. Obviously, he has moments to shine with Steve Harrington, their relationship on the show.
And his never-ending story moment as well.
Exactly. I just think that he's long overdue for a role that's different. And I know I was joking earlier about the connection with the Dungeons and Dragons thing, but I really do think Michael is a completely different character than Dustin because he has a bit of an edge to him, and I don't think Dustin has that at all. And I think it'll be fun and interesting to see him pull it off. And I know he can because I think he has a lot of acting experience. I was just looking at his Wikipedia. Did you know he began his career as Benjamin in Priscilla, Queen of the Desert? Me neither. I never knew. I think it would be a
I
phenomenal
learn something
role.
from these things. I love this.
Exactly.
I think both of your choices have their respective strengths. I agree that Gaten should be in more roles because he's fantastic on Stranger Things. And like Kevin, I haven't watched Gotham, so I can't speak upon David's actual acting chops. I will say, looking at his IMDb and pictures of Gotham, that he looks very cool as Bruce Wayne. Michael in E.T. is not cool.
Not at all.
I'm gonna make this point. Okay, sure, he's on the football team, but what is he doing? He's playing asteroids at arcades with his friends.
Benchwarmer, if anything.
Okay, that's why I chose because I'm like, I wanted an actor that actually looks like a football player because I did think about that. I'm like, because he's a tall dude. I'm like, I could see him as like a quarterback, even though he's playing that nerdy stuff, but it's like he's himself. And
I never even thought about having the height be in the equation here. I don't know how tall Gaten is, but I'll just say for your choice, Zach, of Ed Oxenbould, first of all, coolest name of the bunch.
Yeah, right? I love that last name.
That is dope. But I'll say this, when I first saw his face, I immediately thought of Alexander and the terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. And I was like, oh, God. That movie. I just had like
you're only going to see that
6 years ago.
6 years ago. Yeah, I think he could play Michael. I think he could be a little bit of the dorkier side that maybe just based off appearances. I've never seen your pick, Erik, act in anything. I haven't even seen him in a video. I've only seen still images of him, but he just seems intimidating from what I've seen. So I don't know if he would fit into that mold. And we all know that Gaten Matarazzo is nothing else but a little bit of a lovable dork. So I think that he could pull that off while also being the menacing older brother. So yeah.
But don't you think with casting Gaten Matarazzo that audiences are going to have a tough time like separating him from his character on Stranger Things?
They are the same, like they're very similar series. I would think Gaten would want to try something completely different, especially after playing that same character for so long.
That'll be the case
in a very similar world.
That'll be the case for the rest of Gaten Matarazzo's career, Finn Wolfhard's career, Caleb McLaughlin. The whole cast is not going to be able to get away from it.
Yeah, and poor Finn still had to do it.
Just doing something else in general. Like, obviously, I understand what you guys are saying, making E.T. like this is too similar. But going along with Curtis's guidelines that we have, E.T. never came out. So this isn't an 80s reboot. This is a whole new production. And I think it has a sci-fi element, but not the same sci-fi elements that Stranger Things has. Does that make sense? Like E.T. is heartwarming, it's touching, it's about extraterrestrial life. This show, Stranger Things, is like a horror show about these mutants from another land, blah, blah, blah. Like it's a different tone. And I think it's a different tone both in terms of the two different productions and between Gaten Matarazzo's character as Dustin and the character of Michael. So I think, and I know that he has the chops because I've seen clips of him on Broadway. He's very good at singing as well. So maybe I did cast for a musical like Jessica was saying, and Blue Ivy Carter and Gaten Matarazzo should just be in a musical. But I still contest. Right. He should be Michael. That's what I got to say. But I want to hear you talk more about Ed Oxenbould, honestly, because I've only seen 2 of his stuff. The Visit, I forgot about that movie until looking at his Visit. That movie's creepy.
Both your characters do have in common that they're both like they can be very wise. So The Visit, and of course in Stranger Things, they can be wise. So I want to say the wise A word, but for the sake of this, I can't do it. So I mean, they've done that before. David, like growing with the character and growing with like Bruce Wayne, he does get a bit wise in the end because Bruce Wayne's a genius. So like I feel like he could also bring like that nerdy side of him because it doesn't matter what he looks like. It doesn't matter. Like I feel if you're a nerd, you're a nerd. And like if he's surrounded by, it doesn't matter what they look like. I think he I can see him like really, not only with his height, but also just what he's learned from Gotham. I can see him being like a jerk to Elliot, especially with the penis breath line. I could see him being a total jerk. And Gaten, maybe. Ed.
Totally see Gaten saying something to get
Yeah,
Elliot
I could see it.
but
David, I think he could drive a deeper wound working with Steven Spielberg to make Elliot really snap at him.
Mm-hmm.
You bring up a good point, Kevin. I feel like being the older brother, Gaten would definitely show a different side of it, and that would be a benefit of casting him.
Right. And I think that's another thing that I've noticed. We oftentimes get into this like trench of just thinking of actors from their other roles and thinking like, I can't see Heath Ledger as the Joker. I just see him as 10 Things I Hate About You. But then you see it and you're like, well, now I see it. You can't see it until you see it. It's like actors, I think, have a much wider range than any people not working in Hollywood give them credit. I think people just typecast someone until they get out of it, and when they get out of it, they're free. So it's
and all three have worked with like veteran actors and big time directors to learn a lot. Like before, they would work with the great Steven Spielberg, and all the actors we choose, Spielberg's gonna get a great performance out of them.
But I gotta ask, did you guys have like a hard time just like scrolling through? I found like so many like IMDb top child actors between such and such. I was like, I don't know these people, but I'll keep looking. And then when I came across Gaten Matarazzo, I was like, okay, let's do it.
Gertie, I thought was a lot harder.
Yeah.
My final argument for my Michael actor is that both of y'all's choices are American, and mine is Australian, and it's just a wide-known fact that some international actors are better at acting. So.
Okay.
I think that's more common with.
No, yeah, Ed has an amazing American accent. I'll give him that one. But I guess just not being intimidated by him or not really seeing the nerdy side. But it's just those were previous films. Spielberg probably would get a great performance out of him.
I feel like just looking at photos of Ed Oxenbould and seeing him in movies, he seems a little too clean cut for me to be Michael. I feel like he just seems like he's just like a good kid just from the looks of him. And I think that he wouldn't be like this little like crapster like trying to mess with his siblings. I feel like I could totally see that though with and look at me, I'm just saying exactly what I said not to do before. But yeah, I could totally see Gaten Matarazzo doing that in this role.
Okay, this is a good debate, good round. Solid arguments. Your interesting choices. Let's hear from Judge Travis first. What are your thoughts on this?
Thank you. So I just want to say that was great job to all of you guys right there. That is not easy. I really Kevin, I liked what you said about again, you made a good point about range. That's a true fact with a lot of actors. Like we don't think when you said Heath Ledger, I was like, oh yeah, that's true. I wouldn't have pictured him as the Joker, but and you said range, I was like, okay, that's a different thing there. So I liked that. Going down to Erik, David Mazouz. I mean, the dude's got definitely a football look to him. I mean, he's an intimidating guy for sure. He's got that, I think, that brother intimidation look, if I'm stereotyping it here with brothers in general. He's kind of like, oh, that's definitely the big brother for sure. And then Zach, going down to Ed. Ed just – I just couldn't see – I can't see it with Ed. There's not – I as far as Ed goes, I don't know much on the guy. I didn't see that movie. Or maybe I did a while back, but I couldn't see it. He looks – there's an innocence look to him when I see the face, and I'm just like, I don't know. So for me, it came down to Kevin and Erik, and honestly, I'm actually going to go with Kevin on Gatton because you made that point of range. That just makes a lot of sense. I would like to see how Gatton does that. I think he could pull it off for sure. It's putting on different pair of shoes. How's he gonna ride this bike that's different from what he's been doing the whole time? And I think we'll probably see that with Gatton. But great job, Erik, all you guys. That's not easy. That's my whole take on it.
Yeah, like I said, this is a good round overall. And these are all all solid choices. Um, I'm going to say, though, that I'm going to go with Travis. I'm also going to go with Gaten Matarazzo. Even though it does sound like too much of an obvious choice, I just wish with Ed Oxenbould, I wish Zach gave a little bit more uh, examples of his acting skills, like a little bit more of what he did in other movies and in Alex in a Very, Very Bad Day. It's a long, complicated title, so I'm not going to bother to say it. And David Masseuse, yeah, he played Bruce Wayne for 5 years. He is definitely on that show. He showed a lot of range in his acting. It's just, with Michael, yeah, he's a little bit of a bully to his brother, but you could tell that, outside of home, he's kind of a dork. Even though he's on the football team, he just has this personality to him. He's kind of a dork himself. He does play asteroids at the arcade and plays D&D. I don't really see. I more see David as a popular guy in school, the good-looking guy who plays football, who gets all the girls. I don't think that's what Michael is. But with Gittin he is a tall dude. So yeah, he could be on the football team, but yeah, he does have the personality. Like, you can believe that he's a bit of a dork too. It's kind of too similar to his character on Stranger Things. Michael is a bit different from Dustin because Dustin's not a bully. Dustin's a sweet, lovable guy, and Michael is the annoying older brother to Elliot who likes to crack a lot of jokes. But later on in the movie, Michael does get a little bit more compassionate once his personality does start to kind of change. He does get more closer to his brother, especially when reminiscing about their father. I think not Dustin, Gaten could bring out those type of emotions. So I'm gonna go with Gaten. Jessica, what do you think?
Well, all three of these are really good choices. I like them all for different reasons. The reason why, Kevin picked really well with, I say Gatton. I don't know if it's Gatton or Gaten, so I'm just gonna say Gatton. With him, it's hard to see him in a movie like E.T. because to me it's very, very similar to Stranger Things. And even if we're pretending like E.T. wasn't made in the 80s, we're in 2020, Stranger Things has been made. It feels like he's going from Stranger Things to E.T. and it's almost the same exact thing. Like, I feel like the same events could be happening in different places in the world and it feels like it's all connected. So for me, I kind of have a hard time disconnecting him as Dustin to be Michael. And even though he's not a bully in Stranger Things, the reason why I love Dustin is because he can be a little jerk and sassy at times. And I feel like that would make it harder for me to differentiate him from Dustin and Michael. When it comes down to David and Ed, I love both of them for different reasons. Like, Ed has proven that he can be sassy. He can be that annoying brother. If you've ever seen A Visit, he was that annoying little brother. The only issue I have with him is that I see him as an annoying little brother. I don't know if I could see him as, like, going out of his way to bully his younger siblings. Like, kind of like Kevin said, he's a little bit too nice looking, a little bit too clean cut. With David Masseuse, you literally see his growth as an actor on Gotham. If you've seen Gotham, you would see he does have those nerdy tendencies, especially when he's starting stuff up with Selena Kyle. He does have that trait of himself to be able to play awkward as well as mean, just because of the range that he has and the experience that he has, that I think that he would be the better choice for Michael. So I'm going to go with Eric's pick.
Logan, what do you think?
Well, for me, these are all really good arguments. I like all three of the actors across the board. I'll start off with Zach's choice with Ed Oxenblood. Yes, great name. With Erik Oxenblood, but the fact that he is 20, I think you said you might be like right at the window. I think you might have clipped the window. I think the way I kind of had it is that Michael, at least for me, like, he's still too young to drive, and Ed Oxenblood definitely is driving to school. Like, and it sounds weird, like there's a weird cutoff to kind of put it at, but just it's just that hair too old. And then Erik, moving on to your choice with Dave Massouz, I actually think he's a pretty good choice too. I think he could read as the nice, intimidating older brother, but I think he is too cool to play Michael, plain and simple. And there's something that you said where it's like, well, he's wise. That means he could do the nerdy stuff. Well, wise doesn't equate to nerdy. Mostly you see it like seeing someone play a wise character. Like I would say Gandalf is wise. I wouldn't call Gandalf a nerd. Like it's so they're two very different kind of aspects to it. Kevin, when it came to your pick for Gaten, honestly, I really like a lot of the choices for that. I like because there are certain aspects to Dustin where I can see the annoying brother, but like he doesn't, like, he's doing it because someone told him along the way, hey, brothers are supposed to be mean to their siblings. Like he doesn't actually like mean it with hatred. He's just like, I'm the older brother, is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I can see that vibe kind of coming from Gaten a little bit. I think he brings some of the sci-fi cred with Stranger Things coming on it. And I think he brings the right amount of not too cool to a person like Michael. So yeah, I think if I had to go, I would go with Kevin's choice for Gaten Matarazzo.
All right, so looks like we got ourselves a vote here. 3 points for Gaten. So Gaten is going to be our new Michael. All right, nice round, everyone, on that. All right, so after that round, we are going to be casting, where is she here? We'll be casting the mother of Elliot's and Michael and Gertie, which is Mary, and of course she is a loving mother of the 3 children, and she's pretty much the adult who is shown from the waist up for majority of the time in the film. All the rest of the adults are shown from the waist down, but the reason is because she's also a main focus in the film, and she plays an important role in Elliot's life. So let's cast our Mary. We're going to start with Zach. Who's your choice for Mary for 2020's E.T.?
I want to preface this by saying this is an alternate universe where Drew Barrymore was a huge hit with the classic Firestarter, and her career has been the exact same route as entertainment had her go on to. And it's Drew Barrymore, of course. Drew Barrymore as the Mother Mary, of course. I'm going to say this because Drew Barrymore right now, she is, I'm sure we've all seen movies with her kind of post-Gertie in the 2000s. Some of my favorites being 50 First Dates and a very underrated movie called Big Miracle. It's a movie that my family loves, and it's about her being an activist for whales in Alaska. And if you've seen that movie, it came out in 2012. She has a monologue where she basically just expresses her love to the whales, and you could see the emotion. Of course, she's an amazing actress, but she has that just passion within her, and it's so abundantly clear, and her emotions in it are very genuine, and they kind of sprocket onto everything else she's done. I haven't seen her in the Santa Clarita Diet. I hear she's wonderful in that, but she's a mother in it, and she's also a mother in one of her recent Adam Sandler films, Blended, and she's a very believable mother. She cares about her respective children in either production, and in terms of that, she is believable as a mother. She's the great age, and she's also an amazing actress. So I think that's 2 of the things that Dee Wallace really brought to her performance, as just being the crutch for her entire family, and she had to keep them on the back. And of course, yes, that too as well. So I'm not going to deny it. In this universe, maybe it's another Adam Sandler vehicle where Adam Sandler is the father who left them, and it just kind of shows in their relationships that it can go in either direction. But 50 First Dates, she just brings out so much passion as well. And her scene, whenever she realizes that she does get that memory wipe every time she goes to bed, and you see how crushed she is, she's really going to bring that power to her whenever she finds Elliot and E.T. in the bathroom. and she can just be believable in that resort, and she could be loving as a mother. And that is why Drew Barrymore in 2020 would be the perfect Mary.
Okay, Erik, who's your choice for Mary?
Dang, Zach. Anyway, that was awesome. My choice for Mary is Rebecca Ferguson. She has been wide. I keep choosing actors that have wide ranges, but she can play villains, she can play heroes, she can play anti-heroes, especially perfectly in Mission Impossible. But I bet when this casting call comes, like, wait, I get to play a mother? I don't have to do dangerous stunts. I don't have to do crazy CGI like she does in Kid Who Would Be King. She's amazing in everything, but the one thing, she is a mother of one in real life. So it would be a different part for her to explore and being like, wait, I can actually make a movie my kid can see. Because E.T., like Spielberg, like for a Spielberg movie, he made it for everybody. He'll make this for everybody. Rebecca Ferguson, I think, like just being the mother she is in real life and the amount of talent that she has in her entire career, it would be a fun role for her to explore. And she's been proving, like every time she keeps proving herself, like, wait, she can do that. She can do most of her stunts in Mission Impossible. And I'm so disappointed to find out she wasn't singing The Greatest Showman. But she did sing in the end, and she still has a very beautiful voice. But she definitely has a rawness to her and a passion that I think she can bring to Mary, and also being like a stressed out mother. Like we could really feel for her, and all the roles that she's done in her life. Like, she can bring a different type of intimidation to the role as a mother, but also like she can bring a vulnerability to it. And Mary is a very vulnerable person in this film, and I think Rebecca has the range to really explore that and finally work with Steven Spielberg. And this would be an even bigger break for her. She's already pretty big now, but I think this would be a completely different performance, and hopefully it would get her an Oscar nomination.
All right, Kevin, let's hear your choice for Mary.
All right. So my choice of Mary is going to be lovely Gina Rodriguez. Now, if you're a fan of Jane the Virgin, like I am, I've just started getting into my appreciation of the show. My girlfriend recommended it. It's a phenomenal show, and she does a terrific job. But if you're also familiar with the role, you might be a little bit surprised to find out Dee Wallace was actually only in her early 30s. She was 34 when she was E.T., which means that Drew Barrymore is now older than Dee Wallace was when she was her mom in E.T. Anyway, I think that Gina Rodriguez could really bring a lot to the role. It brings a level of diversity, like I've already been mentioning before. I think she's a phenomenal actress, and I think she could really add new layers to the role of Mary, to the mom. I think she could bring more of the like stressed out, trying her hardest to be this single mother character to her 3 kids who can be a handful. And I think she could really bring out a lot of things. She'll be a younger actress. She's the youngest of the 3 actors we chose, but I think she would be a phenomenal choice.
All right, 3, debate.
So, Zach, I just got to say that if in your world, Drew Barrymore is married to Adam Sandler and Adam Sandler is the absentee father, does that mean we're expecting a Rob Schneider cameo as E.T.?
Oh, yeah, of course. That's
okay.
what I'm saying.
In E.T., Rob Schneider is an alien. Anyway, I had to just do
yes,
that.
Of
He
course.
is the stapler. All right.
I must say, as your choice, both your choices are, they do have their great qualities in them. I could definitely see either one of the actresses playing this, struggling mother of 3. I must say for Rebecca Ferguson, her strength in her performances are playing menacing roles. And I feel like when a casting director is trying to, fill in the role as a caring mother, Rebecca Ferguson just isn't on that list. And
doesn't seem as nurturing as
Exactly.
as they might be hoping for. That's what I was gonna say, because I first see her and I think of that witch character she played in Doctor Sleep, and I'm like, ugh, like that's not she's good. But I also love Greatest Showman, so that's a.
But she's the temptress in The Greatest Showman.
Oh, scandal!
She always plays those characters, but yet she plays those characters, and when you're given the opportunity by Steven Spielberg, it's a new character for her to explore. And like I said before about her being a mother in real life and growing up with a child, and she can bring some of those qualities that she's learned from being a mother, like any parent would. And I think it would be something new for her to do. And yeah, she can be intimidating, but with that range, she can, I think, bring something. She can also be vulnerable. I feel like she also brought that in The Greatest Showman as well.
I think her being the single mother character, I think it feels in my head that she would be hard. It would be hard for her to relate to these children. It seems like she would just have like some sort of level of separation from them. Whereas I think Gina Rodriguez, I think, could be very much like one of the kids, not like in that way. I'm just saying that she could get along very well with her children counterparts in the movie. Whereas I think Rebecca Ferguson, in my mind, seems like she would have a little bit more of a difficult time with that. Because, I mean, in Dr. Sleep, she's literally trying to, like, eat all those children.
It's that movie. They're all actors. They play different parts.
I know.
But I'm like, I hope you choose my Elliot, because then she can make it up to Jacob Tremblay.
There you go.
But you could, but you could say that about any actor being a father or a mother. It doesn't really mean that they're necessarily right for this kind of nurturing role. And I feel like with Rebecca Ferguson, her strengths as an actor have been with her playing menacing roles, and that's a complete 180 from this role that she needs to play a nurturing mother.
Can I just say Drew Barrymore is a cheap pick? I just gotta say it. I mean, come on.
Yeah, what do you mean?
She's a phenomenal actress.
When I saw your pick, it literally blew my mind, because I was like, oh crap, I'm just joking. You had a really good pick. But I think that Drew Barrymore also, in my mind, excluding E.T. and excluding like Scream, she's pretty much a goofball in every other role that she's in. And I feel like that's so much her brand that I don't think she could come off as the more responsible, trying to take care of these three kids role. Or at least I just have never seen it in any of her roles. And at this point in her career, if she hasn't shown that range before, I don't know if she can. Like, I know I'm several times during this whole exercise going back on the arguments I was making before, but
Whip It.
Yeah, isn't she the director of that?
Yeah, she directed that.
Okay, I forgot.
But I still.
But I would say that Gina Rodriguez is also, in this current age, she is a bit of a problematic actress. And I'm not sure if Steven Spielberg and company would want to induct her in this family film that he's trying to create. And I feel like that's a controversy that they would avoid in casting her.
I guess I have to look. I don't know what you're talking about.
She said racial slurs on Instagram.
Well,
yeah,
I didn't know that. Sorry, guys.
No, you know that, no.
But I just like Jane the Virgin. My bad. But if that means my pick is out, then I'll just say that I think that I like the Rebecca Ferguson pick, because it feels more like something in her wheelhouse than Drew Barrymore, just because I think that the goofiness doesn't really fit with what Mary's role in E.T. is supposed to be. And yeah, that's all I gotta say. And I think Rodriguez is a great actress. Sorry, I didn't do enough research beforehand.
It's okay. But Rebecca Ferguson, another reason I chose her, it wasn't really for just the intimidating nature. It was also some of those scenes she had in Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. The look of fear on her face, the fear of the vulnerability that she had to deal with, being on two sides. And being with your children, it's a lot of sides you got to deal with. It's a lot of issues, but it's at Mission Impossible is at a way different level, because she was afraid of death. This time she's afraid of losing her children. So I think you can see that fear on her face, and also being glad she doesn't have to eat children in this movie. She gets to save them. She gets to help them. She gets to work with them. And Drew, while I've seen Santa Clarita Diet, she plays an amazing mother on that show, but she does eat people on that show. And she deals with a completely different side of motherhood that I don't think any mother will ever have to deal with, being what she is in that show. But I think I said it earlier, Drew, I think also might be a little too old for the role. And Rebecca, and funny, Rebecca and Gina are around the same age. But I like the younger mother.
Yeah.
Because Gertie's supposed to be like 5, and we have Adeline Spoon. She's very, very young. So I can see that, and I can see her, instead of dealing with having like the British government trying to kill her and syndicate, she has to worry about losing her kids, and especially when the dad leaves, that will cause a lot of turmoil.
Man,
I think she can really show that only with her eyes.
Yeah.
She's one of those actresses that just has it with her eyes. And Spielberg, with his close-ups and moving in toward her face, especially the scene when, oh no, she's in Mexico with Sally. I can see that heartbreak. I can see perfectly Rebecca pulling that off.
Out of all the actresses that we have recommended, Drew Barrymore would be the most believable mother, though.
Go on.
I think they could all be believable.
They all gonna be believable mothers.
I mean, yeah. In their most famous roles, or the ones that have been brought up the most, Jane the Virgin, Santa Clarita Diet, and what was the one you were mentioning? They were all mothers, so.
Yeah, and also with Santa Clarita Diet, it's like a family, I guess, about a family dealing with a supernatural element. I think she would want to do something different, again, after playing that same character for a while, but something even more different than a family dynamic, maybe going back to like playing a teacher or something like she brilliantly did in Donnie Darko, which I can't believe no one mentioned yet, especially as she yelled the F-bomb to the sky, one of the greatest freakouts of all time. That's very hard to unsee, but yeah.
All right, guys. This was a good round. I think I really enjoyed all these choices. Well, Drew Barrymore, Rebecca Ferguson, Gina Rodriguez. I think I'm gonna and you know I love Zach's choice with Drew Barrymore and Gina Rodriguez. I both believe they could play this role really well, and I like that what Zach has brought to the table with Drew Barrymore about her giving passionate performances. She could play a believable mother. We know that, and she can be emotional, especially stuff like 50 First Dates, and she has a really loving and vulnerable and kind of a sweet side to her, which is probably what you need for Mary. But I'm going to go surprisingly with Rebecca Ferguson, because yes, we do know her for playing more menacing, more intimidating roles, as we see in stuff like Mission Impossible and Doctor Sleep. I just think she's that good of an actress that I believe she has a wide range. She can be vulnerable. She can have that innocence to her that what Mary has. And what won me over in the argument is what Erik said about Rebecca having this talent of acting with her eyes. She could show a lot of emotional range without even talking, without even whispering uh, a single word. And what Spielberg does when actors are acting with their emotions, what he does with the camera, I think she and Spielberg can play off well with each other when on that set. So my choice is going to go with Rebecca Ferguson. Jessica, how about you?
This is a hard one because all three I could see playing this role. They're all very talented actresses. Kevin, going on your pick, what Zach brought up, yes, is true. She is a problematic actress at this time, just with how she behaves in her personal life. But in this instance, like separating the artist from the art, like let's just look at like how she works. She's a phenomenal actress. She's very believable as a mother. The main issue that I had with this before that point was brought up is that her look to me is a little too youthful. And I know that she plays a mother on Jane the Virgin, but I have a hard time believing somebody who looks as young as Gina does is a single mother to multiple children who are not like, infant age. But if they were younger kids, I think I could see an argument more for her just with her look. Between Rebecca and Drew, it's hard because they're both obviously phenomenal actresses. To me, Rebecca has a little bit more of a cold energy to her. She doesn't seem as soft with children, but like we were talking about, she is a great actress. I'm not negating the fact that she could definitely give a believable, amazing performance as a mother. Um, Drew Barrymore, of course, has been in the game very long, and she's a great actress. Where my mind goes to is the logic in real life. We've agreed that Steven Spielberg is the director for this project. Drew Barrymore is his goddaughter. I think that if it's between the three actresses and he sees that his goddaughter is up for a role and she really wants it, I have a hard time believing he wouldn't fight for her to have that role. So for me, my mind goes to it would be Drew Barrymore. So I'm going to go with Zach's pick.
All right, Logan.
Well, yeah. Again, across the board, this was all very good arguments. Don't mind the ET of my own. With a lot of these, I think y'all made some really good arguments. I'll start with Zach. I think you made some really good arguments for Drew Barrymore. I like that you say she is a nice wholesome mom, but she does kind of keep that little bit of an edge to her at times, which I think works in her favor. You also the passion that she brings to the role, I really enjoyed. Also the comparison that you made, like the fear you would see in her eyes with recognizing the scars and, oh God, I've been losing my memory, and matching that to finding Elliot in the bathroom. Like saying that, I could see that scene playing out in my head, like as you were describing that. Erik, saying like I really enjoyed a lot of the visuals you were kind of putting in my head with describing Rebecca Ferguson. And you're right, she is amazing in everything. I am hard pressed to think of a movie I've seen her in where I haven't on the back end gone, oh, and we all know Rebecca Ferguson's amazing. But I will say that there was another thing that was said either by Kevin or Zach that I do agree with, and that's that her strength lies in her edge. So I do think that she might be a little bit too hardened, for at least for, I'm sure that is in no way, shape, or form to say that she is not a good mother, because I know you were bringing up the relation of like she is a mother, she could bring that. I have no doubt. But the characters she does excel at are those kind of harder, colder characters. And Kevin, honestly, when it came to your argument, yeah, there's the problematic stuff aside. Really, the only argument though that I was getting consistently out of you, aside from she's great in Jane the Virgin, which I have not seen, was that she would come across as one of the kids and would kind of feel similar to them in that. But beyond that, I didn't really hear a lot of other big arguments as to like, here's boom, Jean is the good choice for the part. So with those arguments and how they're all presented, I think I would have to go with Zach's choice of Drew Barrymore.
All right, we got 2 for Drew Barrymore, 1 for Rebecca Ferguson. Travis, will this be a tie? Will this be an obvious vote? What's your decision?
So this is where I break it down to. I'm going to go right to Zach. Zach, great argument for Drew Barrymore, but this is how I view her in the end for all this. I think she's very light in her acting as far as everything goes. She can be very all over the place. I think she could be serious. I don't know when it comes to very serious. I don't think she could really meld into such an intense moment for a mother. She's just she's the comedic one to me, for sure. But I mean, she's good, but too light on the acting. To Kevin, what was I going to say here? Gina Rodriguez, she is very good too. Obviously, we know, I didn't know that until recently. I know she can be a little bit of an issue too, but again, I'm going to slice that to the side too for a second. To bounce off of what Jessica said, she does have that very young look. And when I think mother, you want to go a little bit older. So for me, I'm just kind of, that's for age for the most part. I just think she's a little too young looking for a mom. And going to Erik, for her, I think she is, you said Rebecca Ferguson is fantastic. She is very intense. She's got that older look to her, for sure. She has you mentioned the eyes thing is what is definitely a big thing in cinema in general, because you want to believe what any actor is saying. She can really go into that stressful moment with her kids, and I feel like she can just, it's like she can go on that train and just keep going with that attitude. So for mine, it is Rebecca Ferguson for the win here.
All right, so let's see here. All right, so I think we have a tie between Drew Barrymore and Rebecca Ferguson. 2-2. So, Kevin, you're a tiebreaker judge on this.
Well, first, let me just say sincerest apologies for not knowing that information and not looking into that information.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
I was going to continue making arguments, but I kind of just felt like it was a waste because I feel like these two picks are very good as well, and I'm content with either of them. And now that I'm faced with this decision, I am torn because I think that the age factor of Drew Barrymore doesn't matter to me. And so then it boils down to who do I see in the role? And I think that Drew Barrymore has the fun-loving and nurturing side, whereas Rebecca Ferguson hasn't shown it. But I don't think she doesn't have it necessarily. And I think that Rebecca Ferguson is a name that isn't immediately recognizable, but she is a face in Hollywood that when you see her, I feel like this is just my personal example. If my parents saw her in something, she'd be like, oh yeah, that's that, she was in Greatest Showman, blah, blah, blah. Like they would just go off and be like, oh, they know her. So I think this would really put her on the map more so than anything else before. Obviously, she's been in Mission Impossible movies, but I'm going to go with Rebecca Ferguson because I kind of want to see that more nurturing side so that maybe she can get, if we've been saying that she's just really intense in all of her movies, maybe she'll get even more of a diverse line of roles from this. So there's my choice.
All right, so there we have it. We have Rebecca Ferguson as Mary. All right, good job, everyone, on that round. Now we come to our final character. We come to our main heart and soul of this film, the main focus, and that is our little hero, Elliot, who finds E.T. and befriends him. This would be a tough one, so let's not waste any time. Erik, who is your choice for Elliot?
I guess mine might be too obvious, but he's just adorable and everything. Jacob Tremblay is my choice for Elliot. This kid, I guess I can immediately think of his role in Dr. Sleep. I don't know why I'm thinking of that when I think of playing Elliot, but it was actually what happened behind the scenes when he was filming that scene. He was so good in that scene that like he was making all the actors on set like cry and like it was hard for them to stay in character. But once that scene was over, the director yelled cut and Jacob snapped out of it. But not all of the actors. They were, and especially Rebecca Ferguson, was just sitting there like, oh my God. But Jacob, and he like had time to walk over, get a Coca-Cola and just hang with his dad. But he has just keeps on proving himself and everything he's done ever since his amazing performance in Room. Not The Room with Brie Larson. And working his way up, and recently his amazing performance in Good Boys. I was a little skeptical about that film, I can admit, before I saw it, but seeing him in that, and I think he's 12 or 13 now, he still has that voice. He still has that high-pitched voice, and he plays it very well, because I was a little worried. I'm like, oh, please don't have a Stranger Things happen to you yet, where all the voices start dropping. It hasn't happened to him yet, so hopefully by the time they make this movie, he still has his high-pitched voice. But this kid has worked with so many talented filmmakers, so many talented actors, and also he can be funny he can be very funny, as he was on Harley Quinn when he played Robin. It was his voice. He was hilarious the entire time. And this role as Elliot, he can make us cry. He did that in Dr. Sleep. He can make us laugh like he did, and like especially all the scenes when he's teaching E.T. about all his dolls and like everything about the world. I can see him taking on that part, and Spielberg bringing an amazing performance out of him. And I would follow him and E.T. all the way to the end, because I think he's that believable, and he just sells it 110%.
All right. And let's hope his voice doesn't drop like Daniel Radcliffe with Green Harry Potter. Like Sorcerer's Stone, it's like, oh hi Harry, and Chamber of Secrets.
Hi Harry.
It was so drastic. Kevin, who's your choice for Elliot?
My choice is Ian Armitage. pretty simple. He's young Sheldon. I would say other things in his filmography, but we all know him as young Sheldon, so let's just get that out of the way. We don't know him from seeing it in the case of Logan, but we know he is young Sheldon. And I think that him and Jim Parsons are going to have a difficult time in the years after Big Bang Theory ends and the years after Young Sheldon ends, that he is going to have to diversify his filmography. And I think Young Sheldon shows that he's a good actor. We need him to show that he's a great actor, and working with Steven Spielberg will be able to get that out of him. From having the chance to meet him, he's a great kid, a very cute kid. I think he would be excellent in Elliot, in the role of Elliot. And I could see it happening where he gets this big spike in terms of the eyeballs that are watching him, because not everyone watches Young Sheldon. And I think that in terms of his acting chops, he does have it. So I want to see him bring it on the big screen. So for that reason, that's why I picked Ian Armitage. It felt like a no-brainer pick to me to get someone who isn't very well known. Henry Thomas wasn't very well known before being in the main role of Elliot. And I think this is a very standard pick for today.
And finally, Zach, who's your choice for Elliot?
Now, I want to preface all of this by saying that seeing any of these actors play Elliot, we're going to get a good performance either way. Like, they all have what it takes to bring Elliot off the page. I also want to preface this by like having a raise of hands from the judges and my fellow debaters. Have you all seen Jojo Rabbit? All across the board? Okay. Now, Roman Griffin Davis, who plays the star Jojo Rabbit, that entire movie, it was his first movie, but it could also qualify as his acting reel. He shows every single emotion that can be displayed by a young actor in Jojo Rabbit. He shows his optimism in the beginning by being this very enthusiastic kid, and he's very big-eyed, and just this energy that like pops out about him, and his just innocence, regardless of the subject matter, is very apparent by his just the joy he gets out of the life that he is taking a part of. You also get to see the lowest of the lows in terms of his character, like the shoe scene in Jojo Rabbit, and his pain and his crying, his emotion. Like we're all crying in the theater as a result of it, and it like hurts, and you believe it. You believe that he had this huge without like spoiling anything from Jojo Rabbit, but like you completely buy it. He sells it. And you also get this him like fighting his ideology, and also just like E.T., he's hiding something in his household. So he's already got that strength in him. He's like playing the role of Elliot. It's basically tailor-made for him. And out of all the actors here, he is the only one that is nominated for the highest caliber of award, which is a Golden Globe nominee.
Okay, they're debated out. I would say the highest honor would be the Oscars, but that's another argument for another day. Okay, you three debate.
Just about to say that. I'm like, dude, Jacob Tremblay was nominated for an Academy Award for Room.
I gotta say with the Jacob Tremblay pick, I think with that more so than Ian and Roman is that we might be playing with fire in terms of his ability to come off as that young, because I think he's very close to having that Daniel Radcliffe moment. I actually saw him in 2020 because he recently was at the Warner Brothers lot when I was working at Stage 48. He looked older to me than I thought he would, and I think that has to come into play. I also don't think that the role of Elliot necessarily needs to come from someone as tested as Jacob Tremblay. And so with that in mind, I think it might be better to give the role to someone who's a little bit less tested in the film realm, which would be Ian Armitage. I was just looking at it. Let me just get it up real quick. He, in terms of his film roles, has only been in 4 movies, including he voiced young Shaggy in Scoob, the movie that came out this year. Never saw it, but I'm sure he did great.
Did you see the TV series he was in?
What's that?
The TV series he was in?
Oh, what, Young Sheldon?
Not that. The other one that was on HBO.
Which one? Big Little Lies? I've never
Yes.
seen that show. Is he good?
Very good.
Okay, well,
You gotta see that.
yeah, that's another one. I've never seen it. I think my sister has, and she's tried to recommend it to me. I've just never been. It just doesn't seem like the subject matter interests me. And then I can't speak on Roman Griffin Davis because I think I'm the only one in the group that has never seen Jojo Rabbit. Don't know if I ever will. I don't know. The subject matter is kind of hard for me, but I think that it's something that oh, bye, Travis. I think that he could play the role just from seeing his reaction at the Golden Globes. He was adorable at the Golden Globes. I remember seeing, I was being like, oh my God, like his interaction with the actor who played Elton John from Rocket Man. Like he like shouted him out from the stage. He was like, oh my God, so cute. But I think
all three of them are adorable.
All three of them have the adorable factor. I just think that we should give this role to someone who's a little bit less established in the realm of cinema. Obviously, Ian has the TV roles with Big Little Lies and Young Sheldon. I think he would do phenomenally. And I think of the three of them, in my opinion, he comes off as the youngest, which I think is important. They all seem young, but I think he seems the youngest. So that's just my 2 cents.
I feel like, yeah, Jacob has been tested. I mean, you're right about that. But he hasn't had a really, like, a starring role. He's been, like, supporting in a lot of films. He's been, like, he's had small roles. Yes, he is established. Like, he's getting established.
In Good Boys, he is the main character. Of
that was the first. That was the first.
Yeah.
And then I forget, like, but the rest, he's had smaller roles, but he makes such an impact. I feel like now he just hasn't had that opportunity yet to work with someone like Steven Spielberg. He's worked with a lot of big, like, independent directors and a lot of Travis is coming back soon. Internet issue. Oh, internet. But I feel like this is an even bigger opportunity for him to try something different. And I think he could still play like a year or two younger because Henry Thomas, even though he was like 11 when he played Elliot, it's 2-year difference, not the 4-year difference I was going for earlier.
Mm-hmm.
But
how old did you guys think Henry Thomas was when you most recently watched it? Because I thought he was much younger than 11.
I thought he was like 9.
7 or 8 to me. But yeah, I think a big point is trying to seem as believable as an innocent young child dealing with this alien that's come into his life. And I think that Jacob Tremblay, in my mind, I know I'm not every cinema goer, but in my mind, Jacob Tremblay is Jacob Tremblay. And I don't know if I could just buy him as any kid, any kid USA. I don't know if I could picture him as Elliot anymore because he's been in so many movies at this point. So,
he's also in the movie Wonder, which that's a huge star.
Wonder, yeah. So 2 starring roles.
He is great in Wonder. That's a great.
Yes, he is.
I know. Roman Griffin Davis, dude. That's an amazing choice.
Wait, what?
I said, what were you gonna say?
The thing that I forgot to say about Roman Griffin Davis is that yes, he is a British actor. He's a young British actor. So would that be a hurdle? And to that I say no. Steven Spielberg directed Christian Bale in Empire of the Sun.
I mean, the movies that technically still exist in this universe.
Yes.
Yeah, he's directed a lot of children to amazing performances.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely could do that. But like you mentioned that Roman's done all that in Jojo Rabbit, like all the things that he probably would experience in ET, just instead with Nazism and the world of Nazi Germany. But I feel like he would even want to try something even more different.
I think that
just even more different than ET. Maybe, I don't know how, I guess if we had to choose a director for this, I mean, we'd probably go with Taika Waititi, right?
I just think he has the acting ability. It's adamant and clear based on Jojo Rabbit that all the strengths that lie with Henry Thomas align perfectly with Roman Griffin Davis.
I know, we got to make this movie quick so all 3 of them do not grow up.
Well, my thought is that Steven Spielberg, from his perspective, I think he wouldn't really care that Roman was in Jojo Rabbit or that Jacob was in Room. I think he, more than anyone, just wants authenticity in his child there you go. Travis is gone again. I think that he wants as authentic as possible of an experience in the movies, and especially coming from his child actors. I think that he might be able to look past the Jacob was in room and Jojo Rabbit factor of it all and
Yeah,
see
he chooses his actors. I don't think he really holds auditions, does he?
No, he doesn't. But it was brought up before about Steven Spielberg's ability to have a say in who he casts in his movies. And I think that seeing that Ian Armitage hasn't had a lot of film experience, but he has had roles in front of the camera where he's the main event, I think can put him up on a pedestal where Steven Spielberg might not even really care that Jojo Rabbit did so much for Roman and that Room did so much for Jacob Tremblay. Because if you look at the cast of The Goonies, I know not a Steven Spielberg directed film, but of course he had a big role in it. I can't really think of many things besides Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom for Ke Huy Quan that any of those kids were really in before. Obviously, I just realized Corey Feldman is in the movie, but excluding him, I would say. That's my whole thing about it.
All right. It's been a good debate overall. These are all very interesting choices. Fortunately, I just wish I heard a little bit more about Ian Armitage outside of a young Sheldon. I think the arguments about Roman Griffith Davis and Jacob Tremblay brought more to the table of what they could provide for the character of Elliot. So for me, it's a hard choice between Jacob Tremblay and Roman Griffith Davis because these are two wonderful young actors. But overall, because I love Jacob Tremblay, I love everything he's been in. I've absolutely adored him in or his Room or Good Boys. His small little role in Doctor Sleep, which was one of the standouts in the entire film, and he just everything he's in, he keeps improving. I think that kid's gonna be in this industry for a long time. And same with Roman Griffith Davis. When I saw him Jojo Rabbit, I was absolutely amazed by his performance and what Zach said about him showing every single wide range of emotion throughout the film. And his inner battle with his ideologies and the shoe scene. I think he could bring a lot into playing Elliot. So the kid I'm going to go with, I think I'm going to go with Roman Griffith Davis. Basically on the note that Jacob Tremblay, I think, is a little bit too recognizable, even though I could definitely see Spielberg casting him. I'm still going to go with Roman Griffith Davis because from the fact that I still want to see more from him. And he already proved that he could be a tremendous young actor from his role in Jojo Rabbit. I want to see what he could bring to the role of Elliot with the things he's learned and what things he could provide. So my choice is going with Roman Griffith Davis. How about you, Jessica?
I don't know how casting directors do it. This is so hard because they're all so cute and they're all so talented. I wish we could do like a Parnassus where we just use all of them because any one of these choices would be fantastic, I think, for Elliot. Starting off with Kevin's Ian Armitage, he is adorable. He looks around the age range because he just has that sweet cherubic little face, but he's also a great actor. Even in Young Sheldon, although most of the time it is a comedy, he does have these moments every so often where he gets emotional and he can kind of get to that level where he's mad or he can cry. Big Little Lies, he has a lot of moments like that in that show, and it just kind of proved that he, I think, is going to be I would not be surprised if he's nominated for an Oscar one day. I just feel like at this point in time, I don't know if any big studios, especially Steven Spielberg project, would be really willing to take a risk on somebody who doesn't have as much film background experience for a movie that's going to be as big as this. So that's the only thing that's kind of edging my decision in another way. I think that he could pull it off, but I think that it would be a little bit more of a fight to get the role for him. Between Roman Griffin Davis and Jacob Tremblay, my bad. They're also both phenomenal actors. Like Roman in Jojo Rabbit is a revelation. He's incredible in it. And Zach, you brought up a really good point that he literally is showing that he can play every single emotion in the span of one movie, which is really hard to do for an actor that's an adult, let alone a child actor who has never done it before. With Jacob Tremblay, he's the same way. He came in like swinging with Room. He was extremely young when he did that, and just the fact that like you see this incredible performance from somebody who was so young, and he just continues to get um bigger and better with the roles that he does. He's an actor that proves that the more work he gets, the better performances he can give as well. Like Erik's story about the behind the scenes fact of filming that really traumatic scene for Dr. Sleep and how he affected very well seasoned actors is something that can't really be ignored in my opinion. That's a huge thing, especially since that was maybe what like the second or third big movie that he did after Room. It's hard because they're both so good, and like I said, any one of these three would be a good fit, but I think just hearing that story from Dr. Sleep swayed my opinion to Jacob over Roman. Even though they're both great, the fact that Jacob had that effect on people who have been doing this for years and put themselves in uncomfortable positions to get to those level of emotions, I feel like that would be a great pick, and it's a sure bet when you're making a big movie and you need to depend on a kid to be able to get to these emotions when you need them to. And the fact that he can just switch them on and off like that with no issue, I feel like they would have more confidence having that as their Elliot. So my vote's going to go with Erik for Jacob Tremblay.
All right, Logan, what do you think?
I mean, this is a hard one to kind of go for. I mean, like we've kind of been saying, all of these choices are all very, very good actors, and they all kind of bring a lot to the table. I'll start off with Kevin, just like Jess did. Well, I mean, we're kind of like, I think we've all seen Young Sheldon. I haven't seen a single frame of it. So I was kind of actually really hoping for more of a debate and more arguments as to why Ian was going to be a good fit instead of just, well, if you've seen his previous stuff, and there's a lot of debating, the behind the scenes, Spielberg could get a good performance, but it's like, okay, that's fine. But that's taking a lot of the responsibility off of the actor and putting it all on the director to get a good performance. And, I think especially for someone who's got to carry the movie with our little ET creature, we can't rely on it just kind of being pulled from the director. Erik, I think Jacob Tremblay is stellar. I mean, yeah, I can't think of a single person who saw, especially his scene in Dr. Sleep, and wasn't like torn to their core with seeing him freaking out with Rebecca Ferguson and all of that kind of stuff that's going. But the bit that really kind of sold me with Zach was I hadn't realized that Jojo Rabbit was Roman's first film. I know he was still relatively early on in his career, but I didn't realize that was movie one. And yeah, there's a lot of parts of that movie that really feel like I could be watching a very long audition tape for E.T. Whether it's Jojo finding Ilsa in the wall. That's totally Elliot finding E.T. in the garden right there. Like I can see the emotions there in that scene, and I can see that he can really bring that. Same with like the authenticity. I know that was brought up with I think it was brought up with Ian, but I feel that with Roman. I feel like there's an authenticity and a genuine nature that I think kind of comes through, at least in the performance I've seen, with then seeing him on the red carpet. So yeah, I think if I had to put a vote behind someone, it would probably be for Roman Griffith Davis for Zach.
All right, I know you cut in and out, Travis, but from what you heard in these arguments, who do you got as your choice?
Across the board, this is so tough in general. You guys did a great job. This is like, wow. For me, it just boils down to, I think I'd go with Ian. For sure. I like the maturity of that actor. Again, for any young actor to go into a lead, that's a big ask to put everything on his shoulder. Jacob Tremblay is fantastic too. The kid really can mold into anything you put him in. but there's just something about Ian's maturity for his age that I think could fit well with a character for Elliot. I just think that's the kid that would work. And Roman Griffin Davis is great too. He's absolutely fantastic. Like I said, across the board, these guys are all good. Great British actor. So the Brits are always good in their acting across the pond. But I think when it comes down to it, I just got to go with Ian. I like the maturity that guy brings, and I think he would fit perfectly.
All right, so just give us 1 point for Jacob Tremblay, 1 point for Ian, and 2 points for Roman Griffith Davis. So that is our vote. Roman Griffith Davis will be our Elliot of 2020's ET. And now we got our full cast assembled because, as we said before, we are not choosing the director. This movie wouldn't exist without Steven Spielberg. So Steven Spielberg can still direct a movie like this even today. So just to run down the cast again. We got Adeline Spoon as Gertie, Gatton, tomato, Gaten Maharaja as Michael, Rebecca Ferguson as Mary, and Roman Griffith Davis as Elliot, directed by Steven Spielberg. So that is it, guys. That is our assembled cast for ET 2020. Gotta say, this is a really impressive cast that we came up with as a group here. And I think these actors can really kill these roles. And, it's back to Rebecca Ferguson. Even though we know her for more intimidating, more aggressive roles, I think this could be a nice change for her just to really show off her acting weight, because we all know she's an amazing actress. So I think she has that in her. And Roman Griffith Davis as Elliot. Again, we always hear him in Jojo Rabbit, but I think what he brought with Jojo Rabbit can help him bring some of that stuff onto each team playing Elliot, and I do want to see more from this young actor. So impressive cast, everyone. Let's see. Erik, what do you think of the cast you've come up with?
I'd see this movie. Honestly, that's the best way to put it. And Roman Griffin Davis. When you put that down, I'm like, how can I top that? Ian Armitage too. I'm like, oh my God, Jacob Tremblay. I'm like, all right, who else is adorable like those two are? But you are right, Roman Griffin Davis. His whole Jojo Rabbit is his audition tape. For Michael, I think Gatton, that would be a totally different role for him, and I'd love to see him play the older brother because he's used to having Steve Harrington play like an older brother figure to him. So I feel like he can use everything he's learned from him or the character itself and working with that actor and bring that really well to Michael. And Gertie, I have seen Watchmen, and I remember I'm like, she's perfection as well. And she's already worked with all those different actors, all the directors, but now she's got Spielberg. Perfect. So I love the choices, and I love my choice in Rebecca, hoping that Jacob would get chosen because I feel like Rebecca owes Jacob big time after Dr. Sleep. But I love the cast. Great calls, everybody.
Just got quick thoughts on what we accomplished here.
I'm happy with it. I love all these people for the most part. Like, to be honest, like I've also never seen Watchmen, so I don't know much about Adeline. I've seen pictures and she's adorable, and it was hard just because
on the record.
It's just like all of them are so great, and they're great for their own reasons. And even though like I voted for Drew Barrymore to be the mother, I love Rebecca Ferguson. She's a sweet. And she's also like, everybody is capable. So no matter who was casted, like I have no doubt that they'd be able to bring what they needed to the role. But seeing this, like there's so many actors that I just love, I would obviously run out and see it. And having Steven Spielberg attached to it, how could you
not? Let's see, Kevin.
I think we assembled a phenomenal cast. I think that, going through the list of all of the movies we were going to do for this series, I think if you look back and be like, yeah, E.T., what a great cast. I don't think that's what gets brought up all the time. There's other aspects of the movie, but I think if you're going to talk about the actors, you're probably just going to talk about Henry Thomas or Drew Barrymore. But I think maybe with this iteration, I think all 4 performances are going to be phenomenal. I liked the combination that we eventually arrived on of all 3 of our choices, with Zach getting 2. Good job. I think that this will be a good version of the movie. And if assuming in this world that E.T. never came out, I would hope that this one would be as successful and as much of a blockbuster. Maybe not the greatest selling movie of all time up to this point. I don't know if it could beat Avengers Endgame, but hey, we'll see. Miracles happen every day, you guys.
Let's see. Logan, what do you think?
I love the cast that we have put together. There's something that I think you can really say for Spielberg movies, and that's they work really well as ensembles. And I think the collective cast that we have kind of built here feels like what I would imagine a family feels like. Like seeing Roman, I could totally see Gaten as his older brother. I could totally see, I want to make sure I get her name right, Adeline. I could totally see her as Roman's younger sister who drives him nuts, but she hangs out with him because she thinks he's just the coolest. And I could see Rebecca Ferguson struggling to kind of keep this family unit together. So yeah, I think the cast that we have built is a fun one. I would certainly be going to see this one.
Travis, what do you think? What we got so far?
I love what we have. I definitely, when this pandemic ends, would love to see this E.T. movie that I've never heard of in this day and age, for sure. Yeah, honestly, I think this would be cool. This is great. This was not easy to put together, so all you guys nailed it. This would be great. I would love to see this collaboration of all these actors doing this. I think it would really be pretty successful. Again, I like the point we touched on earlier about Endgame. I don't know how it would do against all that, the modern stuff of today, but hey, it'd be great.
I mean, that is kind of interesting. I mean, E.T. was such a simple story. It's such, and I didn't guess what its effects and with the brand name of Spielberg, it made a lot of money at the time. It's like, how would it do today? Because it's such a simple story. It's not too very action heavy.
So did E.T. beat Jaws to become the best-selling movie of all time at that moment?
Yeah,
in '82.
It overthrew
Spielberg
Jaws.
beat himself.
No, Star Wars at the time. The original
Oh.
Star Wars was the highest grossing film of all time. And then E.T. took over. Star Wars is the highest grossing.
And then did it beat Raiders too? So Spielberg beat himself.
I think Raiders was the highest grossing movie of all time.
I thought Close
never that?
Encounters got the fourth by a little bit. Didn't Close Encounters get the fourth?
It came out the same year as Star Wars.
Yeah, I thought he nudged him by a bit. I guess he did. Well, I don't think he nudged him.
How about you, Zach? What do you think of what we got?
This has been amazing. I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but I'm really glad I did this. This was a great way to spend the afternoon. I had a lot of fun doing it and putting my cast together, and then seeing your points for all your different cast members, because I saw some of the choices and I was like, wait, what? And then seeing you explain your points, like I totally see where y'all are coming from, and these are very, very good decisions on your part. And with the final cast that we've assembled, I'm pretty satisfied with it. I could see this movie playing out in terms of the strengths of a lot of the old cast performances, and I could see this new cast kind of emulating a lot of those same great things about them. And this is a lot of fun. I dug this. This is great.
All right, guys. So that's it. That's our third episode of Cast the Future. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you like the cast we built up here. Don't forget to check out next week on episode 4, where we'll be discussing Forrest Gump. We're going to be casting 2020 version of Forrest Gump. That'll be a tough one. Got a few of you that are returning for that, like Logan, Jessica, and Kevin. So look forward to that. Otherwise, subscribe to Curtis, the Cinemaniac YouTube channel. Like this video, hit that notification bell to notify when new videos come out. And we will see you soon. Thank you for watching, everybody.